Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Steph Sells Homes podcast. This is episode 44. That's crazy to believe. I've got 44 episodes since I got started. And today I have two special friends and guests with me today. They are the Aldrete investment group. We've got Miguel and Antonio. These guys are hustlers. And I think a lot of people right now in the real estate market need some sort of structure and guidance and also like inspiration, right? Like, because in this type of market, they're pretty much showing that they could still prevail. Like you could still succeed. And I want them to introduce themselves and kind of talk to us about what they've been doing. But before that, I just want to share how Miguel and I met. I met him through this ADU movement. Those of you who listen to the podcast, and if you go to adumeetups.com, you guys have seen all the meetups that I've been able to do from LA all the way up to San Diego. And Miguel and I hit it off very well through a mutual company that we both knew, and we were both ADU geeks. So that's one way that we've been able to collaborate. I've learned a lot from him. He's such a smart guy. And yeah, I mean, that's a little backstory on how we met. So I'm going to hand the mic over to them and welcome them once again to the show.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to be here. Episode 44. Steph, congratulations. One of the things we talk about all the time is consistency. A lot of the things in real estate, no matter what you pick to do, whether it's calls, whether it's lead gen, whether it's social media, whether it's podcast, you're not going to see the results right away. And a lot of people give up really soon. So to see the consistency and follow your track record, 44 freaking episodes, that's incredible. My name is Miguel. I'm the CEO and broker here at Aldrete Investment Group. Brand new real estate team here in San Diego. Started literally exactly a month ago today. But I've been in the industry for over 7 years. One of the youngest real estate brokers in California. And realistically, it's just showing what our generation can do. A lot of people take my age for granted. Even with 7 years in the industry, they look at my face. I have a baby face, and we still are constantly trying to prove trust to clients. And the big way we do it is, one, a track record that stands out, and number two is the knowledge and the dedication and just going above and beyond. I do have here my vice president, which is Antonio Marin. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
How's it going, guys? It's Antonio Marin. A little bit about myself. So I started in the real estate space around October of last year in regards to ADUs with the company that was mentioned, Multitasker. And yeah, on October, we started this whole venture, starting this new real estate journey. And it's been pretty fun. So I got my license back in March, and this is the first time that the first month that we go completely full time.
Yeah, and I want to dig deep into that, because these guys obviously they're young. They look like very young, and I'm sure that that's a big hurdle to overcome when you're talking to clients who want to buy and sell, because it's like, how are you going to tell me what to do when you look like you're 19? but yet, like you said, you have a proven track record. I know how skilled both of you guys are and how much knowledge Miguel brings to the table as a team leader for the team. So, but I want to talk about just the consistency that you guys have had over the years, especially Miguel with the 7 years of experience that you have, and how you implemented some of those systems into what you're doing now. Because you were in the ADU game for a couple of years along with real estate. But then this year, or 30 days ago, really, you decided to say, hey, I want to open up my own team. Mm-hmm. And the team came with you, and everybody's self-employed now. And what do? You took that leap of faith during this time period where most people are kind of, if anything, holding back, right? Because of where we're at in the market. You guys just are going head on. And so what are some of the things that you implemented from just your knowledge in general? I'd like for you to touch on that.
Yeah, of course. So there's a couple things. Very quickly, backstory. I started 7 years ago as an intern at a Coldwell Banker franchise. I was pretty much making coffee and licking envelopes and door knocking for other people, helping them, get cupcakes for their open houses and all the stuff that realtors don't like to do. I was that assistant that my full-time job was doing the shit, right? So did that for 2 years from 16 to 18. And in that time, I got to see a lot of top producing agents. I was part of my job was distributing the commission checks. So I would see checks of $20,000, $30,000, $50,000. And I was like, holy crap, like you can make in one deal more than what most people make in their entire year, right? And at the time, I was still deciding what I wanted to do for college. So pretty much when I turned 18, I was still a high school senior in high school. I sold my first house, and that paid for my first semester of college. And I was able to go back with my dad and say, hey, for my entire college career, I know you saved up money and you and my mom worked hard to save up money for my university, but I want to give it a shot to see if I can pay for my own school. So that was the original purpose, was get my license, pay for college. One house I could sell per semester would pay my entire tuition, right? That's how it started. About in 2020 when COVID hit, obviously we couldn't do showings for a little bit. I remember going to showings and having to put hand sanitizer on my clients' hands and gloves and masks. And
so awkward. I remember those times. It was so awkward.
Exactly. And realistically, I personally thought, that limiting belief, like COVID, none of us had ever experienced it. I was like, we're screwed. Like, here goes the whole thing. Now I do have to go back to my dad and say, hey, can you pay my next 2 years of college? But I was introduced with Joe Frost, who was the CEO of Multitasker, and he was had this vision of creating a one-stop shop for real estate. So currently, they had solar, they had financing, they had, and the biggest thing that they were setting themselves apart was with the ADUs and how they were able to streamline the process. And I was basically like young, hungry, real estate was slowing down, and he gave me the opportunity to come in and be that in-house realtor for clients who either were looking to acquire property with ADU potential, or that had just built an ADU and were ready to cash out their newfound equity. So I came in as the in-house realtor, worked there, worked my way up to sales director over 3 years. And yeah, from 20 to 23, I was pretty much running the sales department and doing ADU sales and meetups and networking events and some stuff like that. And then I got my broker's license and got a corporate broker's license. And broker officer, that you have to get a lot of licenses to open up a firm. And, once I got everything ready, all settled, you
also have a book, like just gotta casually throw that in there too. Your author over here.
A couple books that I wrote in the process, and pretty much once everything was all ready to open up a brokerage, unfortunately the timing just wasn't right for Multitasker to take on that liability. But a lot of the guys on the sales team had already gotten their real estate license and wanted to sell that product. So I felt a little bit of a responsibility to say, hey, I know you guys have worked on your license, and this has been a vision that we've been working on. So I looked for an opportunity where I could start our own team. So we started with 3 guys that took the leap from a salaried position, a salaried plus commission.
No salary. That's crazy.
To no salary, took the leap. 100% on August 1st was our first day. And yeah, we took a lot of the systems processes, and realistically, the first thing I told them was like, hey, if you guys, like, I feel the responsibility that you guys have to make money regardless.
Right.
Like,
I feel it too as a team leader. It's like, you feel a lot of the responsibility, but then a lot of it is also understanding that it's a numbers game. So I can't do the work for you, but I can set you up for success. Now it's up to you to kind of take it on. And I feel like once your back is up against the wall like that, in the position that you guys are in, you guys just left August 1st. It's like, you have to make it work. And we were talking about the numbers offline. And I think a lot of realtors, one, don't have structure. They don't have systems in place. And they kind of just hope that they get a couple of referrals throughout the year. You dropped some numbers that I think maybe people should hear. Like, how many phone calls have you guys made in the last 30 days? What's the pipeline looking like? Just to give people insight that even through this market, it's really just a numbers game. Like, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it all comes down, like we talked about, was consistency. So day one, this was August 1st. We all sat down. There was 4 of us on the team then. Now we've grown to 7. So we've almost doubled the team in 30 days. Yeah. And we're about to take on a couple. I think we'll probably hit 10 by the next 2 weeks. So day one, we sat down and I said, okay, this is a team that's, and this is for team leads, real estate team leads, take whatever you guys want from this.
Oh, they're going to need it for sure.
This is our company. It's not my company. In fact, before knowing the laws on how to name the company, I didn't even want my last name in there. And Stephanie talked about that. And I said, all right, this is our company. So day one, we're going to create standards that you guys think you can meet, but are going to push yourself to the limit, right? The first standard is 9:30 a.m. Everyone has to be here on time. And if you miss 5 meetings within a 30-day period, you're off the team, right? So every single day, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m., we do a KPI review and a deal review every single day, right? Number 2 is we have to make 20 calls a day, right? So no matter what, I don't care how many escrows you have, I don't care how many meetings you have, a minimum of 20 calls a day. If you hit 16, but you had really good conversations, or you hit 15, okay, like we'll let it slide, but we review that at 9:30 every day. It's like, Antonio, how many calls did you make? And we have it tracked. Oscar, how many calls did you make? We have it tracked. Me, how many calls did I make? As the team lead, I still have to make the 20 calls a day. And if, I had to be out of town or whatever, we make exceptions. But the goal is that everyone's making 20 calls a day. So 20 calls a day times 7 people now, that's 140 phone calls that are being done a day. And if we're tracking our numbers at a 5% appointment ratio, that means that we're booking 5 to 7 pre-calls per day. So that's obviously with the new bigger team. When we started, it was only 3 or 4 of us. So numbers overall, first 30 days, we hit 1,200 phone calls, over 60 pre-qual appointments, 4 signed listings. And of those 60 pre-quals, we have 35 qualified clients approximately.
That's a really good number out of the 60 pre-quals. But I do something very similar. I think I even bumped it up to honestly 30 phone calls a day per team leader, because before the standard was to call 100 people a week. Now I've bumped it up to myself for 300 people a week, only because of the type of market we're in. It's so hard to weed out the people that are actually qualified in this type of market. So before we had it easy, you just call 100 people a week, which came out to about, I think if you do the business plan, the 20 people a day comes out to how many conversations is that a year? 20 times.
So obviously not all 20 people pick up, right? So we're seeing from our calls about 20 calls a day, about 10 pick up, and
then out of those 10, you schedule 1 appointment. That's usually 1 to 2. That's usually the conversion rate. And as you get better and more skilled, then typically you have a higher conversion rate, or at least being able to schedule the appointment and tap into people's motivations, wants, and needs. But I mean, for a 30-day period, that's insane. 4 listings, 60 pre-qual appointments. And some realtors, even some of the people on my team, I try to get this through to them. You can't just go and schedule a couple appointments a week and think that you're going to hit an escrow. You got to talk to so many people, but in order to do that, you have to have good systems and processes in place. So you guys are there at the office every day. Where are you getting most of your leads from? Are you running paid ads? Are you guys doing events? I know for me, what works for me is the events, and obviously other networking with other realtors. But what's your strategy at the moment?
Well, there's really 3 main places where we get these leads. The first one is paid ads, which is the most consistent. And realistically, I'm all in. My mom is in the education industry, so she's very conservative. When I told her I'm all in, I'm giving up a salary, this and that, she freaked out. And literally, I remember at one point during this month, since I'm investing as the team lead into these paid ads, I wasn't tracking the expenses, and I got down to $34 in that account, and I was like, wait a minute, what the hell? How much have I spent in ads? Because it's just running on the back end, right?
Right.
Oh shit! So I think I threw in almost $5,000 worth of ads in that specific account I had set aside, and it ran out super quick. And now we're I had to refund or transfer money from another account to keep the ads running, because every single day when people come in, that's another thing. If you show up in the morning, I give you leads. If you're late to the 9:30 meeting, go find your own calls, right?
Right.
Because I'm putting money in, and whoever's committed is going to get the leads. If not, you have to go call your uncle or aunt or figure out who you're
Go
going to.
through the phone book, do the old-fashioned phone book. Yeah.
These leads are hot. Like they're coming in hot. So that's number one is paid advertising. Number two, we have like the traditional Realtor Zillow leads. Not as consistent, but they are better quality.
Right.
A lot of times they're already qualified, or they were working with an agent in the past and wanted to switch agents or whatever. And then number three, we have we're calling expireds from 2 years back. So at the end of the day, people that back then couldn't get the price that they wanted, but now they can.
Right.
And then last but not least, because we are in the investor space with the ADUs, we're calling and building up our investor list of people who have recently bought 2 to 4 units. Because a lot of times people who have bought 2 to 4 units are constantly buying. They're not a one-time buyer.
Exactly.
They have hedge funds, or they have capital raised, or they have seller financing or whatever, and they're buying up 1 to 2 properties a month. So realistically, if we can have a list of 20 investors that are constantly buying, then, and the same thing if we're calling up people with 2 to 4 units and they're constantly moving their assets, they'll buy with us, they'll flip, they'll sell with us, right? So
And they'll most likely like build with you guys too, because one of the main things that I think a lot of people don't know is my team is very ADU focused. Your team is very ADU focused and very ADU friendly and knowledgeable, which allows us to speak to the investors. Most realtors don't understand cash flow analysis. They don't understand what the projected cost will be for the build out, the time frames. And as you said, like these investors are buying more than one property. You work with a first time home buyer, they're probably going to buy a house within the next 3 to 5 years. Once they, get some equity, maybe upgrade or downgrade or whatever the case may be. But an investor, when you open up their mindset and you're able to prove to them like, hey, I'm going to help you acquire, also build, and then rinse and repeat the process, they become consistent clients that will then refer you to other investors. So that's been like my targeted niche, especially in the multifamily space. I really want to target multifamily. But can you share like what the goal is for the year? Because I mean, it's crazy what you guys have been able to do in the last 30 days, but what is it looking like for you guys, for the next 12 months?
yeah, absolutely. So right now we got to get through the first 90 days and survive. As anyone who's listening, if you guys are realtors, you can put a property into escrow, but you're not going to get paid for another 30 to 45 days. So right now we're cash flow negative for the first 2 months, and we know that. So we're okay. I have savings set aside that were specifically for this, to make it happen, right? But by end of year, I want the team to hit. I put a goal of 10 million just from August 1st to December, which is not difficult. I don't think we'll.
I think it's very realistic, very doable, because even 20 mil for the year, I think is like reasonable. But hitting 10, even if you guys hit 6, like hey, it's one step closer to that 10 mil goal for the rest of the year.
And realistically, if we break it down, 10 million in 5 months ends up being 2 million a month, which is really in California, 3 to 4 escrows.
3 to 4 houses. Yeah.
Not that difficult. And then for next year, I'm assuming the team's going to be around 10 people starting January, is next year we want to our first full like calendar year to hit 100 million.
100%.
So that's our goal for next year.
Okay, that's aggressive right there. That's good though. I mean, with 10 agents, I mean you're basically tripling the production that you have right now.
And then a thing to build on that, I know you just mentioned the 20 calls, but as he said, within this industry, it's a very free industry, right? That's the whole goal of it. A lot of people that join it is due to the freedom. But with the freedom, there's their positives, but as well as negatives, where it's you have all the time in the world and you decide what to do.
How do you spend your time?
Yeah. So with not only just the calls, we like to consider them pistons. Other people call it pillars. But with what Miguel just described with the calls, that's just one column. We also introduce open houses. We try to have 2 open houses a month per person in regards to the team. So everyone's actively in the market, knowing the houses that are selling within our area. And we're constantly talking to buyers that are interested as well as potential sellers in the neighborhood. Another piston that we like to do is social media, which some people within our generation are taking advantage of it, but not to its full potential and not with the consistency that it needs to be done. I know, Steph, you post all the time, so you're very well versed, but especially in our area, we see that some people lack. So we try to make up in those areas that are not very well seen. So we try to post
once a week.
Once a week. And then in regards to our sphere, which a lot of people typically tend to forget, your family members are always going to be the best referrals. We try to make a list of 10 people a week so we could contact and just keep in mind, like, hey, just so you know, I know I'm your cousin, I know I'm your son, I know I'm whoever it is, right? But I'm also a realtor and I'm here to help you out. So it's keeping that consistency. It's not just the calls, it's the open houses, the social media, it's the sphere, and it's making sure that it's consistent throughout the months. Because as we all know, it is a numbers game.
It is. And the hardest part is like, okay, some people that are listening to the podcast are like, damn, 1,200 calls in a week. Where the hell am I going to get that many leads from? I don't have $5,000 to spend on ads. What I say to those people is open houses. I have one of the girls on my team I met through an open house. I sold her a house, then she got licensed, and now she's part of my team.
Really?
Open house. Yeah, dude. Like open houses, especially before COVID. Now it's picking up again, but I remember like 2017 to 2019, I was doing open houses during the week, Monday through Friday, and on the weekends. And that's where I was closing about 60 to 80 homes with my brother a year. And a lot of it was from paid ads, but then also open houses and social media. And another quick hack for new realtors, if you don't have money to spend on leads, what you can do is go through your phone book. I have like 1,500 people on my phone book. You can hit up all your people, your family. And many times we have this limited belief where we think like, oh, well, how do I approach them or how do I call them? And it's a simple like, hey, what's up? How you been? Like, I know it's been a minute that I haven't talked to you, but I'm in real estate now and I'd love to help you and support like the family. So I'm hitting up the family first and see how we can help you guys build wealth, because especially like where we come from, maybe not a lot of our family even owns. So it's like switching that limited beliefs, like, oh, I'm going to reach out to them asking for something versus like, I'm going to reach out to them to help them with something, and give them a service. That's like the easiest hack for new realtors who don't have the money to spend, especially during these times, is like hit up your phone book, do social media because it's free, and then do open houses. Those are the three main things. And then with open houses, you leverage people. Many realtors think that the open house is where you're going to get the leads from. That could be the case, but it's very rare that you're going to have somebody walk in and be like, I want to submit an offer on this house. Like, it's very rare. But the way that you leverage the open house, there's 7 different ways that you can leverage the open house, right? You schedule the open house. Now you have content for the whole week. Now you're able to farm a certain area. You're able to door knock a certain neighborhood and invite the neighbors to the open house. Like, there's so many different ways. And I learned a lot of this through Tom Ferry. So that was going to be my next question for you guys. As a new team, and even though I know you have a lot of experience, Miguel, are you guys following any sort of coaching? Like, I know me and my team, we do follow a lot of Tom Ferry and there's a few other like smaller speakers, that sort of mentor us and help us with the structure.
Yeah, so right now there's not a specific coaching program we are following, but as you know, education is key. So twice a week, we try to bring in industry professionals to our 9:30 meetings, whether it's a lender, whether it's an escrow officer, whether it's a title rep, whether it's, let's just say I've been noticing a certain objection that's been, because we try to record some of the calls so I can basically give feedback and stuff. So if we have like a certain objection that's been coming up, we focus our whole meeting on how are we going to handle that objection. And there's a couple sales like trainers online on YouTube that we follow. Number one is Jeremy Miner. If you don't,
I follow him now.
Yeah,
he is up a lot. He's really good. Yeah.
So really good at explaining very short, videos that are 1 minute to 5 minutes long, and then a lot of role play. Daily we do role play, and then we also have these cards on our calls that have the 4 personality types of clients.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the 4 personality types?
Yeah. So realistically, when we go into a call, you want to understand your client as best as possible. So the 4 personality types, one is nurturing, which means you're very family based. Like your relationships means everything to you. You care more about the relationship than any of the information or anything like that. Another one is blueprint. You like to know step by step what's going on, knowledge, everything like that. Action is very direct. You know what? I don't really care about anything. I just want to get it done as quick as possible. And then I believe knowledge is the last one. So knowing as much knowledge as possible, like what do the numbers look like? Let's run the numbers. And it doesn't necessarily mean that each client just relates to one. Sometimes we have a combination of 2 or 3, and we go based off that. Like, oh, he's very action based. There's no need to go on like, oh, this whole rambling about the blueprint or how was your weekend. It's like, okay, these are the numbers. This is how it looks. And it's more than anything categorizing your clients and being as effective with not only your time, but with their time as well.
Yep. So
That is
those,
huge. Yeah.
so we have those cards, like they're like little, they look like little business cards, and there's 4 of them. So everyone on the team has a set, and pretty much when they're on a call, part of what we're not required to do but recommended is to like set aside the 1 or 2 cards that they are, and then like basically trash the other 2, right? And now you're focusing on those 2, whether they're knowledge and blueprint go pretty hand in hand. So let's say an example of a client that's knowledge is somebody who wants to know the interest rate, wants to know their monthly payment, wants to know current programs available, how much down payment, etc. Blueprint is someone who's saying, hey, walk me through the process, and if it makes sense in my head, we'll go ahead and move forward. Action are people that say like, hey, let's submit this offer like now, and I want speed, and I want that contract sent before the call's even over. And then there's the values, which we do have a lot of. And how do we focus on building a good relationship? Is we have an acronym called FORM. This is not all. This is, again, from a lot of stuff that we're researching, not stuff that I knew coming into this. But FORM stands for family, occupation, recreation, and motivation. So until we have that checklist in every single call as well. So until you've checked off and you know about their family, you know about what they do for work, you know what they like to do for fun, and you know what their motivation is for buying or selling, until you find those 4, we don't talk about the process. We don't talk about interest rates. We don't talk about homes or anything else, because we haven't really found out what that client truly needs. So
that's such a hack right there. I use something similar. It's called LP Mama, which stands for location, price, motivation, mortgage, and appointment. So I don't hit, and it doesn't go in that order. Sometimes people will tell you their motivation right off the bat in the conversation. But usually motivation gives you a good indication of everything else, because you can have a well-qualified buyer or seller or investor, but if they don't have a motivation attached to it, you can't really move the needle for them. So for me, like, motivation is key, understanding what triggers that person, which is part of the FORM acronym too, right? Like, some people are driven by family, some people are driven by numbers. If they're talking to an investor, whatever that motivation is, that's what we want to tap into, because motivation will usually align with time frame. Like, I'll give you an example. I had a lady who was going to sell a house to in Downey. She needed to be in Downey because her daughter was going to start school before September. So we started shopping in June. That shows me that she has a pain that she needs to like satisfy. So she needed to find a house before September in Downey, because her daughter's going to Downey and her mom lives around the corner. That to me is like, okay, she's highly motivated, versus somebody who's just like, oh, we want to see where we stand, we want to see what we qualify, and we're not really in a rush, we're very comfortable where we're at. Those types of buyers take a little bit more nurturing, because again, the motivation is not there, and they can be well qualified. So I tell my team also that sometimes you could have a well-qualified buyer, but that doesn't mean that they're going to pull the trigger. It's motivation that really drives people, and the emotional intelligence that you guys have already implemented is a big time hack. Because a lot of realtors just make calls just to make calls, but you got to have intention with it. Like, you got to have a strategy. And key thing that you guys talked about was the personality. I do something similar, which is called the DISC assessment. So D is for direct people. I is like me, like somebody who can talk all day, but I do not work well with systems and operations, but I can talk to people all day. I'm like a very relationship type of person. S is very social, but also like somewhat analytical. And then C people are super analytical. Those are like your engineers, doctors, people who really need to have like a full rundown of the numbers and the metrics of what's happening on the back end. The D people are very direct, but it's crazy because once you learn these formulas, you really get to speak to people in different ways, right? You put on these different hats and then you build rapport accordingly. So there's a whole psychology game to real estate. And I think that's the advantage that I see you guys having already just in the last 30 days. Coming in with that mindset, it takes years for people to even think about like, the strategy behind getting to know people's personality types. When I think it should be the opposite, like you should learn how to read personalities and then be able to pitch accordingly according to their personality type. That's huge hack right there.
And I think one of the, I guess, just the last kind of tip I'm going to throw in here for, again, team leaders or agents, what's the benefit? Because a lot of agents, especially including myself, when I first started, I was like, I can be an individual agent. Okay, cool. Number one, the accountability that this team has, I don't have to be on top of people as the team lead. They keep each other accountable. They call each other. We have, obviously the group chats and everything, but every single pre-qual appointment that's booked is posted on there. Every single meeting, every single celebration. And then the other thing is we try to partner up on all of those meetings. And the guys are so selfless of being willing to help each other out without asking for a commission from each other. It's insane. So this morning we had a pre-qual right during this podcast. We had a pre-qual going on right next at the office next to us. And one of the guys, it's his client, but another guy came in to make sure that he's like good and has the support. And he's not getting any commission out of it, but he was like invited to that meeting. And every single morning during those 9:30 meetings, we review all the meetings for the day and we all partner up. So whether I'm in the meeting or someone else is in the meeting, but we always have two people there. So whether it's a showing or an open house or a pre-qual appointment or a listing appointment, it's always two people. And one person, it's their client. The other person is just there to help. But it's a win-win because they're learning from each other. So even though you're not getting actual commissions, you're
like
learning.
paid training or yeah.
And then number two is we know we have each other's back. So for example, one of our members, TJ, was out of town visiting family and his client needed to see a house that was off market. We went and showed it. And we know that TJ's got our back when we're out of town or we're busy or we're double booked.
Exactly.
So that team dynamic where I think there's a lot of teams out there that you just join and the team lead is like, yeah, just call me if you have any questions. But we know that every single person plays such a big role. And my responsibility, or one of the things that I did to get the team motivated and really see some sort of like win there, is you talked about the goals. Okay, if we hit the goals as a team, normally a realtor would get nothing out of it. It's like, okay, cool, the team did great, and the team lead gets to go on vacation, right? For us, every single month we have team goals, and if we hit them, there's either commission bonuses for everybody. There's a team trip that we all take. There's paid events, like for example, Ryan Pineda's event in Las Vegas, right? If you make a certain amount of calls, I'll pay for your flight, right? For you to go out there. If you hit a certain number of GCI, right? Or if the team hits the 10 million by end of year, we're all taking a company trip and everyone gets bonuses also on top of their commission. So it's motivation for the team to be successful rather than just themselves individually. And I think that's
part of the culture. That's part of the culture that you've already created and kind of set the tone for, that a lot of real estate teams don't do that. Like I pretty much probably work more than most of the people on my team because a lot of them have still part-time jobs because a lot of them are moms. So I really try to look out for each other. And sometimes though, I've had, one of my team leaders, one of the girls on my team, watch Alex for 2 hours while I go show or go to an appraisal. Like we really try to help each other out in that sense. Like we're mom team here. So I'm very reasonable, and we try to just help each other out and create a sense of community. And a lot of times when we have the team meetings, we're talking about mindset. We talk about deals, we talk about, what our goals are, but I really tap into like their mindset and what's going on at home because I was talking about this yesterday at the meetup that I had an all women panel, and with
Mhm.
women, like we're very emotional, by nature. And so a lot of the times I think women aren't able to be so like you guys, right? I grew up with brothers. I don't know if that was like something that helped me, but
Uh-huh.
when I was working with my brother's team, you remind me a lot of my brother. My brother was like on it. And sometimes I had like rough days and he was just like, bro, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, well, I have emotions. Like, I'm a girl. And he would just be like so structured. And men tend to deal with business and just everything a little bit different. So with women, I try to be very nurturing too as a team leader. Like, hey, I got your back. If you're having a rough day, if it's too much with the kids, like I'll cover you for the open house or, things like that. Like where we just try to be there for each other as moms too, not just as like a real estate team who wants to close deals, left and right. Like it's more
Yeah.
of a culture that we're building. So that's pretty dope that you're doing that from the beginning because that's the advantage of being part of a team. Like, what's the value proposition at the end of the day for you guys to all be working together? So I'm really excited. I think I'll leave it off with this. Like, the reason why I wanted to have them on is I feel like for me, being in real estate for the last 10 years, it's really helped to develop relationships with other realtors. Believe it or not, like, I think a lot of realtors are very standoffish and they tend to have this barrier and they're not collaborative at all. I'm trying to change that narrative because I think that's where we'll be able to make more deals. And there's enough business for all of us to thrive in. So I know that Miguel and I and our teams will be collaborating a lot from LA, Orange County to SD, and now Miami. So it's just going to continue to grow. And I'll be creating my own team out there. And then it connecting with other realtors has been probably the reason why I'm still like in the business because I get so many referrals from other realtors out of state, close by. It's crazy how most
Even
realtors
like
don't think of it that way.
properties,
Yeah,
like
even getting offers accepted. Like, let's be real. Like, you have good relationships with people. That's why I always do good with realtors. Whether if you're doing a deal with me, like I'm working with you as a team. Like, if I'm on the listing side or the buy side, I'm doing everything that I can. But there's some realtors that are just trying to make your life miserable. And it's like, dude, we're both here with the same goal, which is to close the deal for our clients. I'm not here to, have any friction throughout the deal. If anything, I'm trying to figure out how we can create more work with each other in collaboration. But that's something that we could talk about on the next episode. I really want to thank you guys for your time. I know you got a whole bunch of prequels that you got to get back to, but how can people connect with you guys if they wanted to, I don't know, send you guys referrals or any buyers who are probably listening, like they just reach out to you on Instagram and DM you, or what would be like the easiest way for people to reach out?
So we have multiple forms of like communication. First of all, Instagram. We'll make sure to. Well, mine is underscore Antonio Marin underscore. Yours is
Miguel Aldrete Jr. Yeah.
there. You go. That's one form. Phone number. We'll put the email and stuff. We'll send it to you guys so you guys can send it out. But yeah, more than anything. Oh, and a little thing I wanted to end off on. I know we talked a lot about team leads, but if there's any new realtors or new real estate agents starting, I know that's something that I had to deal with in the beginning. I barely got my license in March. It's a very intimidating industry, and it can really turn a lot of people off. But the biggest thing about it is action. You have to act more than anything. Don't be scared to fail. I've failed plenty of times. I've gone to open houses and I don't know what to do. I just stand there, just like, hey, how's it going? I've made plenty of calls where I don't know what to say or I stutter, and it's just part of it. And it really is a industry that gives back what you give, if that makes sense. Where if you
100%.
yeah, if you give it your 100% and you give it your all, best believe it might not be in the first few days, but it will pay back. And that's something that I really love about this industry, is that if you're willing to give it your all, it will return everything you put in.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think a lot of people, especially new realtors, and it's nice to hear from you. Like it could be very intimidating, but if you surround yourself with the right people, like you got Miguel, you got me, TJ, like you guys have created just a really dope like environment for you to succeed. even with your limited beliefs or even with it being intimidating. So I think for any new realtors who maybe want to join a team where you're going to be held accountable, that's also probably a good opportunity to reach out to you guys and create just, other young realtors that can really succeed, because you do get as much as you put in this business. That's a fact. But a lot of people think that, you become self-employed and now you have all this free time. But no, that's not the way it works. Like, now that you have free time, now you're your own boss, which means you need to create your own schedule for yourself, because nobody's going to come and call you out for being late, but you're also not going to get paid. So it's like, pick your poison. But thank you guys again. I'll see you guys on the next one. And I definitely want you guys to fly out to Miami when I have my meetup out there. That would be super dope.
We'll be there.
Sure. Okay, guys. Well, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.